Hello, ghouls, and welcome to episode 41 of the Shrouded in Darkness podcast, where we shine a light on the cases that the world forgot. This is your true crime obsessed host, Marlena, and I hope you're having the best day. Today's case takes us to Springfield, Missouri, in another mysterious, unsolved case. So buckle up, ghouls. Before we dive in, let's look at our sources for the case. We have ky3.com, SpringfieldMO.gov, and Then They Were Gone podcast, Morbid Podcast, and Crime Weekly podcast. Now, the reason I usually list a lot of podcasts is because that's where most of my research comes from. I'm able to listen to this kind of stuff when I'm working my normal job, my real job, quotation. So I'm able to listen to podcasts during the day, and I take notes as I'm listening. So that's why you'll see me mention a lot of podcasts during my sources. So now allow me to introduce you to our Springfield Three. Sherill Levitt is 47 years old. She's been married and divorced twice. With her first husband, she has Bart and Suzie. In the 80s, she marries her second husband, but this only lasts a few years. After this, Sherill chooses to focus on her cosmetology career, her kids, and her home. According to her friends and family, she is described as independent and very hardworking. So I mentioned Suzie. This is Cheryl's daughter. She is 19 and graduating from high school. Suzie and her mom Sherill are super close, and they're very protective of one another. When people describe Suzie, they say she's sensitive. And I think part of this might be because she actually has a learning disorder. This caused her to struggle some in high school. She wasn't super social. She does plan to follow in her mother's footsteps, though. She wants to attend cosmetology school. We also meet Suzie's friend, Stacy McCall. She is 18 and also a recent high school grad. Stacy is your typical teenager. She loves fashion, tanning, and Metallica. She is described as bubbly and outgoing, and she is the youngest of 3 daughters and plans to attend Southwest Missouri State University after high school. A little more background on the girls. So Suzie and Stacy, they met in grade school, quickly became best friends. When Stacy is 11, her family moves out of state. So this kind of causes a little bit of Stacy and Suzie to drift apart. Now they do eventually move back to Springfield, so Stacy and Suzie kind of restart their friendship. Another part of this friend group is Janelle Kirby. Now she'll be mentioned later on, so I wanted to make sure I mention her name now. Now, Janelle is friends with both Suzie and Stacy, and I believe, based on the information I have found, Janelle and Suzie are the closest between the 3. Now, a few other notes in case it's relevant to the case. At one point, Suzie lives with her brother, Bart. They do have some kind of falling out. I'm unaware of what the circumstances are, but she does move back in with Sherill. Then in 1992, Sherill purchases a new home. This is on Delmar Avenue, which I will use as a reference point. And she has plans of remodeling it. That's actually part of what she does. She does a lot of fixing up the place, furniture, walls, etc. And it's not that she has necessary experience or skills in this. It's just something she enjoys. And she kind of teaches herself as she does it. Now, let's jump into the day of the case. It's Saturday, June 6th, 1992. It's officially summertime, and the girls are wrapping up their high school careers. The plan is to attend a couple graduation parties and then road trip it to Branson for an overnight stay and then a fun day at the water park that's there. An added FYI, Branson is about an hour away from Springfield, where the girls live. Now let's review a few things. At graduation, Stacy's parents invite Sherill and Suzie to join them for dinner at a local steakhouse. But they decline. They instead pick up a pizza and take it home to eat. The girls would meet later on to start their night's festivities. Remember the graduation parties and stuff. So from what I can tell, the night starts at Janelle's house. The three of the girls, Suzie, Stacy, and Janelle, they walk to the first party. It's not far from Janelle's, and it's at Brian Joy's house on Coach Drive. The second party that they attend, it's about a 10 to 15 minute drive. And this house belonged to Michelle Elder and is on East Hanover Street. Now, sometime between the two parties, so around 10 or 10:30 p.m., the girls decide to make a slight change in their plans. And Stacy actually calls her mom, Janice McCall, during this time, and, she confirms all this. So the plan is that they would hang out a little longer with the friends that night at the parties, and then they would drive to Branson, the water park, in the morning. So instead of road tripping that night, they were just gonna, hang out in the parties. So meanwhile, during all this, Sherill is at home. She is actually revarnishing an old chair. It's also possible she was hanging wallpaper. So she's working on things in the house. She speaks to a friend on the phone between 9:30 p.m. and 11:15 p.m. So this is verified. So now we move on to 1:45 a.m. The girls return to Janelle's with plans to stay there for the night. Only Janelle's house is a little overcrowded because they have a lot of out-of-town guests that came for the graduation. So, again, we see the plans change. It's overcrowded, so Suzie and Stacy decide to drive to Susie's house on Delmar and stay there. And then the group would reconvene in the morning and, head for their trip to Branson. So, at this point, it's 2:15 a.m. Suzie and Stacy both have their vehicles at Janelle's, so they each drive the 15 to 20 minute route to the Delmar house. Okay, now we fast forward to the normal morning hours of 8 a.m. Now this is when the group is supposed to connect and meet up and head for the water park. But Suzie and Stacy are MIA. Janelle's not able to get a hold of either one of them. So at 9 a.m., about an hour later, Janelle and her boyfriend Mike drive to the house on Delmar. This is where Suzie and Stacy are supposed to be. Now, when they first arrive, they see all three vehicles. So that's Sherill's, Susie's, and Stacy's cars. They're all parked at the house. They also notice that the porch light's glass globe is shattered along the steps. So there's glass pieces. The bulb itself was still intact, and some reports show that it was slightly loose. If you flip the switch to turn it on, it may not come on. Now, Janelle and Mike, they don't think much of this. They sweep it away, get rid of the mess. The front door's unlocked, which is also not unusual, so the couple lets themselves in. Only they find no one home except the family dog, Cinnamon. And Cinnamon is kind of going a little crazy, pretty anxiously barking, but Cinnamon recognizes Janelle, so she calms down. Now, something that I feel is really important, I learned about the parking situation. Now, I mention this because I feel like this could be relevant to the case. And this comes from a close friend of Susie's. According to the friend, Suzie would only park in one of two places at home. In most everyday situations, Suzie would park behind her mother's car in the carport area. Now, if her mother was gone or someone else was there, Suzie would park in their circle drive. On this particular day, this is when Janelle and Mike show up at the house, we know that Cheryl's car is parked where it always is, in the carport. Suzie and Stacy's vehicles, though, are parked in the circle drive. Now, I'm pretty sure we can assume that this wasn't because Sherill wasn't home. I mean, it's 2 a.m. in the morning, so most likely she's at home, so there's no reason for her car to be gone. But there is the possibility that maybe someone else was there at the house, and it wouldn't have been enough to alert Suzie because she didn't call anybody. Nothing seems out of place. So it seems there is one other possibility that's a little more innocent, whereas since Sherill was, working on projects like varnishing the chair, it's possible she was using the carport to work on the chair, and so her car may have been parked somewhere differently. and then maybe after the girls get home, she moves it back into the carport. I'm not really sure. There's a lot of possibilities, I feel like, here. But again, I felt like this was really important. I mean, if Suzie has this whole routine of where she parks her car, and for some reason she parked in the Circle Drive that night, then there's a reason behind that. We just don't know what the reason is. Now let's look back at the scene with Janelle and Mike. So we know there was glass on the front steps and the door was unlocked. Cinnamon was alone. We find the TV is on, but it's at that static screen. Towards Suzie's bedroom, which I believe is kind of towards the back of the house, we find all 3 purses almost lined up along these short steps that lead into Suzie's bedroom. It's possible it even looked staged because this was not a normal place that they put stuff. We see Stacy's shorts, jewelry, and flip-flops. She also has her migraine medication there, which she never leaves without. I believe there are also a couple packs of cigarettes. I believe Sherill and Suzie smoked, but that was something else that was strange to be there if the girls weren't there, because they always took those with them wherever they were. Now, Cheryl's purse, again, it's there, and it has $900 cash in it. All 3 car keys are also sitting there. There are bathing suits sitting out, which confirms the plan for the water park. There are makeup-covered washcloths in the laundry. The beds appear to be slept in. Cheryl's glasses are on her bed or on the nightstand. There's an overturned book. So all of these things indicate that the girls made it home safely, and they were in the process of getting ready for bed and possibly already in bed. So this is what we're seeing. Nothing else is out of place at the scene. So at some point during this day, Janice, Stacy's mom, she connects with Janelle. You know, they find out that no one has seen or heard from Sherill, Suzie, or Stacy. So Janice is concerned, and she decides to actually go to Cheryl's house, the house on Delmar, to kind of see for herself to see if she notices anything. And more friends and family do actually show up kind of off and on all day. We also learn that there are some strange phone calls coming in. Janelle actually answered one of them, and it was a male's voice on the other end. And it was just, he was creepy and perverted and lewd. And it seems this happened a few times. It may have even happened on previous occasions to Sherill and Suzie. I couldn't find anything definitive on that, but that is a possibility. Unfortunately, though, there's little information on these calls. The person left messages, but somehow those messages got deleted before they could be like processed or investigated or anything. So it kind of goes to show you kind of how unworried people were at this time. You know, maybe they probably thought this was a prank, that the girls were fine, nothing was wrong. But the calls could have very well been some part of the case. We may never know. So while at the Delmar residence, again, people are in and out, and they don't know what to do. They just know their friends are missing, that they're not there, they're not home. So for some reason, they start cleaning and straightening up things. Of course, this greatly interferes with what later becomes an investigation, because again, no one realized how serious the situation was. Now, between 8 and 9 that evening, so this is a full end of the day, Janice does see for herself that her daughter, Stacy, Sherill, Suzie, all of them are missing. None of them have come home. None of them have contacted anyone, no friends, no family. So Janice contacts the Springfield Police Department. They arrive at scene shortly after, and they are kind of immediately concerned with what they're seeing, or rather what they're not seeing. So they ask everyone to leave so they can start, a proper investigation. And they find all the things we've already discussed: the purses, the keys, the cars. There are no signs of forced entry. The vehicles, all of them are locked. There are no viable fingerprints, no DNA swabs, etc. But again, the community of friends and family to the girls, like, they had already been in and out of the house. So, and we know that they cleaned and straightened up. So anything that could have been there may have very well been erased, basically. And from what I read, it could have been somewhere between 10 and 20 people in and out of that house before the police were ever called. Again, this is the early 90s, so none of that is really that unusual. Now, when police leave the scene, they put a note on the front door asking the girls to call them. You know, that there's a possible missing persons report being made. So, you know, when they get home, they need to call and let everyone know they're safe. Now, I feel like everyone really thought very lightly of this whole scenario, because think about it. From what they're seeing, these 3 women vanished without a trace, and that's not normal. So everyone leaves, notice on the door, a call never comes. Nobody ever hears from them. So flyers are eventually hung around town, surrounding areas, rivers are searched, hospitals are called, tips were followed, the neighborhood is canvassed. There's still nothing. And not only were the local police department involved, but so were the Missouri State Police and even the FBI. So on Wednesday, June 10th, this is, you know, a few days after they're seen as missing, the Cheryl's parents, they finally arrived to Springfield. There's not really any more details on that. I just feel like that's important, that they do travel to Springfield to be there to hopefully find out what's going on. On Thursday, June 11th, Bart, who is Suzie's brother and Cheryl's son, he undergoes a polygraph exam. He passes. It seems he was kind of a big person of interest for them, maybe because of the whole falling out thing. But he admits that he hadn't actually seen or spoken to his mother or sister in months. But there's nothing linking him to the crime. We also know that some of Suzie's ex-boyfriends are questioned. One of them actually was known to be violent, but again, they take polygraph tests and they pass. We have both of Cheryl's ex-husbands are interviewed. Both of them are quickly ruled out. So throughout the years, there have been many speculations, many rumors. Of course, nothing has been proven. No one has been officially linked or arrested, and the case still remains unsolved. Now, here are a few of the theories and possibilities that are in reports. A convicted felon was in the area at that same time of the disappearance. He was interviewed in 1996, so that would have been 4 years later. Apparently, he had worked with Stacy's father and claimed to know the women were already dead. But there was nothing substantial for detectives to go on. A concrete company that was tied to a possible vehicle from the case. The grounds of the company, those were searched in 2002, and again, nothing. Then in 2003, tips took the investigators to a piece of farmland. There was blood found in something that can link to that same suspected concrete company vehicle, but we find inconclusive results. Speculations about a hospital parking lot came up in 2007. A local writer took it upon himself to hire someone to scan the area with radar. That scan picked up 3 distinctive objects, but the police didn't think it was credible because the construction for the building hadn't began until like a year after the case opened. So the girls went missing in 92, so the construction would have began in 93. The tip also came from a psychic, and it kind of looks like no other investigation was done. We should also consider the one main piece of evidence that was at the scene, the broken porch light globe. You know, could this have been part of the perpetrator's plans? Like I said, maybe the light was switched, or when the light was switched, the light didn't come on, so maybe he was hiding in the darkness. Maybe the globe was broken in a struggle. Maybe it's absolutely meaningless. But this is something else we'll never know because the kids unknowingly threw out the evidence. Some question who the target was. Was it the older woman, Sherill, the mom of 2? Was it the teenagers freshly out of high school? Did one of them have a stalker? Did something happen that caused one of them to intentionally disappear? Did something happen at graduation? Is it someone they went to school with? Someone that they worked with? There's so many possibilities because there's so much that's unknown. It's possible someone, posed as a utility worker or a neighbor, someone that would give the girls an excuse to willingly step outside. Because remember, there were no signs of foul play. Nothing out of place, no overturned furniture, No valuables stolen. Remember, there was $900 in one of the purses. The only thing we have is the broken globe and an unlocked door. Speaking of theories, I think it's important to cover a couple rumors I found. There have been reports that satanic items were found in Susie's bedroom, but there's nothing supporting this. There was also a rumor that Sherill was renting one of the rooms to earn extra income. But what I've been able to find is the home only had 2 bedrooms, so that wouldn't really make sense to rent out a bedroom that was already occupied. So this goes to show you that not all information that you hear or information you read is factual, and you have to be mindful of that always. Looking back at other details, on the night of the parties, friends say that the girls weren't acting any differently. That they were happy, enjoying themselves. No one recalled seeing anyone lurking around. And there's even no talk about alcohol or drugs, which some look at as a common thing for this time period. I mean, recent graduates, graduation parties, you expect there to be alcohol and drugs involved. But it all kind of just shows that nothing was out of the normal that night. A few witnesses report seeing a 1970s green-colored van near the residence on Delmore on that June day. Some of those same witnesses believe that it was Suzie in the driver's seat, that it was someone that looked just like her and she looked stressed. And those same witnesses said they could hear a man's voice saying, "Don't do anything stupid." Now, police do attempt to follow this tip. Remember, I mentioned that there was a vehicle that led them to inspecting a concrete company. Well, this is that vehicle. And honestly, they searched thousands of vans, but nothing substantial once again. It's believed that whatever happened to those girls happened between the hours of 2:30 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. That's a 5-hour time span. And despite the close quarters of neighboring homes, nothing unusual was heard or seen. No screams, no commotion. Now, before we wrap things up, let's look at our persons of interest. Robert Craig Cox. He is a convicted kidnapper, robber, and former military man. He lived in Springfield at the time of the disappearances. His girlfriend at the time confirmed his alibi, but she's since then recanted. Even though Robert has taunted police for years and claims he knows where the bodies are, there has been nothing verifying him or linking him to the case. Another person of interest is Larry Dwayne Hall. Another convicted person, this time serial killer from the Midwest. He could possibly tie to the case because he targets young women. We also have Stephen Garrison, another local criminal with a violent history of sexual assaults. A tip came in stating that Stephen had been heard bragging about his involvement in the case. Yet again, nothing definitive. Lastly, we have Gerald Carnahan, also from the Springfield area and known as a wealthy businessman. Now, he was actually convicted in 2007 for the murder of a young woman from 1985. Her name was Jackie Johns, by the way. So this obviously puts him in the lineup for being a possible suspect to what happened to the girls. Now, where does the case stand today? Well, we know that police have compiled somewhere around 27,000 pages of information. They've received more than 5,000 tips, and they've conducted countless polygraphs and chased leads over 21 states. The case is still active, and we still know very little about what happened that day, even 34 years later. An added FYI, there is still a reward of $43,000 for information in this case. Despite everything and all the unknowns, we still have hope. The families of those girls still have hope that answers will come one day. Like I always ask, if you have any details worth sharing, or maybe you have your own theory, anything at all, please reach out. You can connect with us on Instagram, WordPress, Patreon, and all the listening platforms. Just search for the Shrouded in Darkness podcast and you'll find us. Thank you for tuning in today. And if there's a case from your hometown that deserves attention, send it to us. We want you to reach out. Tune in next week as we dive into the case of the Cleveland torso murders. Until next time, ghouls, remember, the truth is always hiding in the darkness.